At -71 degrees Celsius, even predators die. The cold does not respect strength. It does not honor talons or beaks. It simply takes what it wants, when it wants. And tonight, it was about to take one of the most magnificent hunters on Earth. Anatoly was 68 years old. His back was permanently bent from decades of hard labor. His hands trembled slightly even when still, and his eyes, still sharp despite his age, had seen enough of life and death to know when to interfere and when to walk away. He lived alone in a log cabin 5 kilometers from the nearest village. His wife had died 15 years ago. His children lived in Moscow. Now, their lives so distant from this place, they might as well have been on another planet. Anatoly didn't blame them. Life here was hard. It always had been. It always would be. He had been a falconer once, decades ago, in his youth. He had worked with hawks, trained them, understood them. He knew how raptors thought, how they saw the world, how they processed fear. That knowledge had faded with time, buried under years of simpler survival, but it hadn't disappeared. It was late afternoon when he found it. He had been checking his trap lines, moving slowly through snow that reached his knees, his breath forming clouds in air so cold it burned. The storm had been building all day, a wall of grey cloud pressing down from the north, the temperature dropping with each hour. He almost walked past it. The eagle was half buried in a snowdrift, its brown and gold feathers barely distinguishable from the frozen ground. Only the slight movement, a wing shifting weakly, caught his eye. Anatoly stopped. He stood 3 meters away and studied the situation carefully. It was a golden eagle, massive, wingspan of nearly 2 meters, even folded. One wing lay at an unnatural angle, broken, clearly. The snow beneath its body was stained with blood that had already frozen red-black. Its amber eyes were open and tracking him, fierce even now, even in this state. He knew immediately what had happened. A collision, most likely, perhaps with a power line, or during a hunting dive that went wrong, or a fight with another predator. The break was severe. Without treatment, infection would follow within days. The bird would be dead within a week. He also knew what approaching it meant. A golden eagle, even injured, was extraordinarily dangerous. Those talons, designed to crush the skulls of prey, could puncture his hands, his face. That beak could tear flesh, and injured animals didn't think. They only reacted. They only fought. Anatoly went back to his cabin and retrieved what he needed. Heavy leather gloves that reached his elbows, relics from his falconry days, kept without knowing why. A thick wool blanket, rope, and a piece of raw meat from his meager winter stores. He returned to the eagle. It watched him approach, its good wing half spread in threat display, its beak opening in a silent warning. But it didn't try to flee. It couldn't. The broken wing pinned it. Anatoly stopped 2 meters away and crouched slowly. He placed the raw meat on the snow between them. The eagle's eyes tracked the meat, then tracked him, then the meat again. He waited. 5 minutes. 10. The wind screamed around them. The temperature was dropping. Every minute cost both of them. Then the eagle's beak dipped toward the meat. It ate, just a little, just enough to tell Anatoly that it still wanted to live. He moved slowly, deliberately. Every movement announced, every action unhurried. He spoke softly in Yakut as he approached. Not words the eagle understood, but sounds, calm sounds, steady sounds. He threw the blanket over the eagle in one quick motion. The bird exploded. Even broken, even weak, even half-starved, the eagle fought with everything it had. It screamed, a sound that cut through the storm like a knife. Its talons raked the blanket. Its good wing beat against the ground. Anatoly held on. He pressed the wrapped bird against his body, restraining the wings, protecting himself from the talons. The eagle fought for 30 seconds. 40, then exhausted, it went still. Anatoly didn't let go. He carried the bundled eagle back to his cabin, each step careful, each movement deliberate. Inside, he prepared a space in the corner. He had no proper perch, so he lashed together 2 thick branches and padded them with cloth. He set the eagle on this makeshift perch and carefully, slowly, unwrapped the blanket. The eagle immediately tried to stand on the broken wing and cried out in pain. Anatoly watched, resisting the urge to interfere. The bird needed to understand its own limitation before it would accept help. It took 3 tries. 3 times the eagle attempted to use the broken wing. 3 times pain stopped it. And then finally it stood on 1 foot and looked at Anatoly with eyes that held something other than pure aggression. Assessment. It was assessing him. Anatoly returned the look steadily. He examined the wing from a distance first, then gradually closer. The break was mid-humerus, the main bone of the upper wing. Bad, but not the worst it could be. He had set broken limbs before, on dogs, on horses, even on a hawk once when he was young. He prepared his materials, 2 straight pieces of wood for splinting, strips of cloth for bandaging, and a small amount of vodka, the strongest antiseptic he had. What followed was the most delicate work of his life. Every time he touched the wing, the eagle struck at him. His leather gloves saved his hands, but the beak found his forearm once, drawing blood through his shirt. He paused, waited for the bird to calm, then continued. It took 2 hours, 2 hours of patient, painful work, cleaning the wound, setting the bone as best he could by feel and instinct, splinting and binding. The eagle fought through all of it, screamed through all of it. When he finished, Anatoly sat down on the floor and put his head in his hands. His arms were trembling. His forearm throbbed where the beak had struck, and he had used half his remaining firewood, just keeping the cabin warm enough. But the eagle was still alive, and the wing was set. The days that followed were unlike anything Anatoly had known. The eagle refused to eat for 3 days. It stood on its perch, motionless, hostile, watching him with those unblinking amber eyes, and rejected every piece of meat he offered. Anatoly didn't force it. He simply placed food nearby each day and withdrew. He moved slowly, never approached directly, never made sudden movements. On the 4th day, the eagle ate. Not much, just a small piece of rabbit. But it ate while he was in the room, and that, Anatoly knew, was everything. Progress was imperceptibly slow. Each day brought tiny changes. Each day the eagle allowed him slightly closer. Each day the hostility diminished by a fraction. Each day he learned more about reading its moods, the angle of the head that meant warning, the relaxation of the shoulders that meant relative calm. His firewood ran dangerously low. He burned furniture. He made dangerous trips through storms to gather fallen branches. He rationed his own food to dangerous levels, keeping the best portions for the eagle. His body grew thin and weak. His joints ached constantly, but the wing was healing. By the end of the 3rd week, the eagle allowed Anatoly to sit within a meter of its perch without threat displays. By the end of the 4th, it took meat from wooden tongs held in his gloved hand. And by the 6th week, on a morning when pale winter sunlight finally broke through the clouds, the eagle stepped sideways along its perch and very briefly pressed the side of its head against Anatoly's gloved hand. Just once. Just for a second. But Anatoly sat completely still for a long time afterward, his eyes closed, feeling the weight of that moment. Winter began to recede. The temperature climbed from -70 to -50, then -40, then in late February, -20, cold enough to be dangerous, but not immediately lethal. Anatoly began taking the eagle outside, short sessions at first, on his gloved arm, letting it feel open air, feel wind under its feathers. The eagle would stand very still during these sessions, head turning, eyes scanning the sky with an intensity that was almost painful to witness. It remembered, that was obvious. It remembered what it was. The wing had healed. Not perfectly, a slight irregularity remained in the set bone, but well enough to fly. Anatoly knew what he had to do. He had known it since the beginning. Really, wild things don't belong in cabins. Eagles don't belong on makeshift perches in single-room log cabins. They belong to the sky, to the mountain cliffs, to the vast open spaces where they were made to live. He had told himself it was about healing. Just healing. Get the eagle well, then release it. But somewhere in 6 weeks of slow, careful mornings and quiet evenings, something had shifted. He had begun to look forward to the eagle's presence, to the sounds it made, to the amber eyes that had gradually, impossibly, moved from hostile to something else. Not tame, never tame, but aware, connected, present. One morning in early March, when the sky was clear for the first time in weeks, and the temperature had risen to -15, Anatoly carried the eagle out to the open hillside behind his cabin. He stood there for a long time, the eagle on his arm. The bird was still. Its eyes scanned the horizon. Its feathers moved slightly in the wind. Anatoly lowered his arm slowly. The eagle spread its wings, testing, stretching, feeling. He looked at the eagle one last time. It turned its head and looked at him directly. Those amber eyes, that fierce, ancient intelligence. Then he raised his arm, and the eagle launched. It rose in a spiral above the hillside, climbing with powerful wing beats, higher and higher. For a moment it circled, once, twice, directly above him. Then it turned east, toward the mountains, and flew until it disappeared against the pale winter sky. Anatoly stood in the snow for a long time after it was gone. The hillside was empty. The sky was empty. The silence that followed was different from any silence he had known before, heavier, fuller, as if something immense had passed through this place and left its impression in the air. He walked back to his cabin slowly. He stepped inside. He sat down by the cold stove. And for the first time in 6 weeks, the cabin was just a cabin, just wood and stone and silence. He sat there for a long time, not moving, not thinking, just sitting. Then he stood. He added wood to the stove. He prepared his meager meal. He cleaned the wooden perch and stored it in the corner. And as he worked, he thought about what had happened, about the choice he had made on that frozen hillside, about the cost, the hunger, the injuries, the furniture burned, the sleep lost, about every day of slow, uncertain progress. He didn't regret it. Not one moment. Because in the harshest place on earth, in the coldest and most isolated corner of his already isolated life, he had done something that mattered. He had saved something magnificent. He had sent it back to where it belonged, whole and alive and free. And there was a dignity in that, a completeness. Not all bonds are meant to last. Not all connections end in permanence. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do for another life is heal it and release it and watch it go. That evening, as the sun set over the frozen landscape, Anatoly sat outside his cabin for a while. The sky was clear, stars were beginning to appear, and high above, so high it was barely a speck against the darkening blue, a golden eagle circled on the last thermals of the day. Anatoly watched until it disappeared into the dusk. Then he went inside and closed the door and tended his fire, and in the silence of his cabin he smiled, because some things, once healed, belong to the sky, and helping them get there is enough.